Commissioner Rose? Thank you, Commissioner Rose. Can we please have a roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Austin?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Rose? Here. Scheffler? Here. Sheaf?
Here.
Vashani?
Here.
Chair Stahira?
Here. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on August 14th, 2024. If there are no corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So I'll move to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. We'll just take a voice vote, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, with that, the motion is approved. Okay, at this time, this is the public input portion of the meeting. So citizens who wish to discuss any items that are not on the agenda may speak to the commission. And as a reminder, the commission may not discuss or vote on items that are not on the agenda, but we can take this information and use it to inform our future deliberations. Does anyone wish to speak during the public input portion of the meeting tonight? Given no one has come forward, I believe we can close the public input portion of the meeting. All right, moving on, public hearings. We have two public hearing items on the agenda today. First up is PH1, which is an application for a conditional use permit CUP 2024-0007. The subject property is 618 South Myrtle Ave with Lucky Spoon LLC as the applicant. And this is an application for a Type 41 state alcohol and beverage control license to serve beer and wine at a new restaurant called Filet. So Assistant Planner Arnold, please take it away.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, Commissioners. As he stated, we do have a restaurant with incidental indoor service of beer and wine, a Type 41 ABC license for a new restaurant, Filet. This is located at 618 South Myrtle Avenue for Lucky Spoon LLC. And the representative, who I do not see in the audience, is Pirapat Kinawachantakul. And the subject site is located at 618 South Myrtle. This is in the HCD zone in here in downtown. This is just north of the corner of South Myrtle Avenue and East Olive Avenue. It's between Thai Time and the Chamber of Commerce. And a bit of background, this space is actually previously occupied by restaurants with alcohol service. Most recently, it was Sushi Kuni, which opened their doors just after the pandemic. And they received approval for beer and wine in 2015, but they ultimately closed in 2022. And so that previous CUP for beer and wine has expired, in which case the new applicant is requesting the new one tonight. So the project request is incidental indoor sale and service of beer and wine for the new restaurant. They are not proposing any outdoor service or seating at this time. It's a Japanese cuisine. They propose 52 indoor seats, 8 of those being bar seating for the sushi bar. Their hours of operation are proposed Monday through Sunday between 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. midnight, and does require the Type 41. The CUP is required for any alcohol sales within 500 feet of residential, and being within the HCD zone, there are multiple residential units within downtown that this would be next to. And it was properly noticed, and we have not received any public comment up to this point. The Japanese cuisine is a full-service indoor casual dining with sushi, donburi, which is more of a traditional rice bowl. They have various sides and desserts, as well as non-alcoholic beverages. And then as for the alcoholic beverages, a full menu of beer, wine, as indicated in the staff report. Separate from the CUP, an ABC license is required, a Type 41. They have their own rules and regulations as well, specifically that they have regular service of meals to patrons, a full-service kitchen, and all the managers and servers do have to be certified through ABC's new program for the Beverage Service Training Program, and which does educate on dangers of serving alcohol to minors or over-serving patrons. Here we have the proposed floor plan. Again, as I stated, that's 52 dining seats right when you walk in, moving from left to right on the image. You walk in, there's dining room with booth and table seating. As you make your way through, there's a small server station for a point of sale contact to help seat you, and miscellaneous condiments. And then you have the sushi bar, which again would feature about 8 seats at the sushi bar, and then the back of house kitchen and 2 restrooms off the rear. The conditions of approval are fairly similar to other restaurants with alcohol within Old Town. Any change or intensification would require an amendment to the CUP if approved. Any window signs need to be placed so that there's a clear and unobstructed view of the interior of the space. The business hours are limited as proposed by the applicant, again, till midnight. Any change in those hours would have to come back to DRC for review and approval. The operation has to be as a bona fide eating place. The quarterly gross sales cannot exceed 33% for the alcohol, and then alcohol service is limited specifically to that dining area located on the floor plan, which I showed in the previous slide. That concludes my presentation. I did not see the applicant in the audience, but I'm happy to answer any questions at this time, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Austin, for the staff report. Any questions from commissioners regarding the staff report? Mike. Commissioner Rose, don't forget your mic. Oh, it's broken. Oh, never mind. Okay.
They are actually already open. They're just not they did a soft opening last week, but they are not serving any alcohol at this time. So it's just the restaurant itself.
Any other questions from commissioners regarding the staff report? All right, with that, so this is the time and place for public input regarding item PH1. We will accept testimony in the following order. The applicant, which you said is not here, persons in favor, persons with concerns, and then the applicant or Austin will have a chance to respond to anything that comes up. So just some reminders, folks wishing to speak, just please come to the podium one at a time and state your name. And all comments and questions should be directed to me. No dialogue. And I think that is all. So now, do we have any persons in favor wishing to speak? All right. Anybody opposed? All right, given the quiet, I think we can close the public testimony portion of the hearing. So now is the time for the commission to discuss and debate. If there's anything else to discuss, any other questions that have come to your mind?
I'm going to make a motion to approve the conditional use permit, CUP 2024-0007, and with conditions as presented in the staff report.
And I'll second that.
Very good. I have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Commissioner Austin?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Scheffler?
Yes.
Sheaf?
Yes.
Bashani?
Yes.
Chair Stahira?
Yes.
All right, and the motion passed. Just would like to note that all approvals of the Planning Commission may be appealed to the City Council if filed in writing within 10 days of tonight's decision, and appeal fees do apply. Thank you.
All right. That concludes our discussion on item PH1. Next up, in the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting, we have PH2, which is a request to amend the land use element of the general plan and the official zoning map of the city of Monrovia to designate the property at 923 South 10th Avenue, Arcadia, as residential medium density and public, quasi-public, and RM 4000 and PQP in connection with the annexation of territory known as Reorganization Number 2023-02 to the City of Monrovia and detachment from the City of Arcadia. And I believe with the staff report, we have Director Sherry Bermejo.
Yes, thank you, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. So real briefly, this is a pre-zoning, pre-general plan amendment application for a property that is in the City of Arcadia. The property owner has applied about a year ago to de-annex the property from Arcadia into the City of Monrovia. And this process, this step is just one of several steps in order to complete that process. The applicant for this application is Mr. James Troyer, who's here present with us this evening. So real briefly, this is just an overview of some maps. The one on the left shows the location of this parcel in relationship to the boundary of the City of Monrovia. The parcel's almost 20,000 square feet in size. And it's located just on the west side of South 10th Avenue at the terminus of El Norte. It's located at 923 South 10th Avenue. Here's a street view of the property. There are actually 2 residential units on site. To the north of this unit, you can see there is multifamily development. To the south is a property with the single-family home. The lot is almost 20,000 square feet. There are 2 existing units on site, and the property is zoned in Arcadia. It's zoned for single-family residential. So the general plan designation is low density, and the zoning is R1. What's interesting to note, though, about this property, it's just one of a total site that includes 2 additional properties in the City of Monrovia. Those additional properties to the north, on the north side of that red line, is in the City of Monrovia boundary, and that totals a little over 14,000 square feet. Cumulatively, with the parcel in Arcadia, the total property that's all under single ownership is a little over 34,000 square feet. The applicant is, for this reason, approached both the City of Monrovia and Arcadia over a year ago to see about running through this process. Having a property with 2 zoning designations and a city boundary has complicated the property being able to realize its potential for development. Now, real briefly, all annexations, de-annexations, movement of lines across jurisdictions and special districts are all under the jurisdiction of local agency formation commissions. State law gives the authority to these LAFCOs, for short, to adjudicate, review, and make these approvals. A lot of the review that they do is also to make sure that these adjustments are compatible with the surrounding area, that there are services provided, open space, etc. The overall process is very lengthy. As I mentioned, this applicant approached the city probably early last year. The first step in this application was that the applicant approached LAFCO, submitted their application to them. LAFCO then submitted a notice to the City of Arcadia and the City of Monrovia. Now, in order for the applicant's application to proceed, Arcadia was given a period of time to either adopt a resolution that could terminate the process or take no action, which would allow the reorganization process to continue. So on June 20th, the City of Arcadia City Council considered a resolution. They took no action, which allowed the reorganization to press forward. And then earlier this year, the next step of the process was to take a look and for our City Council and the City of Arcadia and other agencies that benefit tax from the parcel, they all had to adopt a tax transfer resolution. And our City Council completed that step this year in February. So now we're at the pre-zoning and CEQA clearance. Now, even if This application is before the Planning Commission as an advisory review. The City Council has the ultimate decision. Even if the City Council approves this ultimate general plan zoning amendment, it's up to the LAFCO to approve the project. If they don't approve the reorganization, then the ordinance and general plan amendment disappear. So the general plan amendment before the commission this evening is to designate the front 17,316 square feet of the lot to residential medium land use designation. This is a residential land use designation that allows for approximately 17.4 units per acre. The site has a fairly large easement that cuts across the rear of the lot, about 130 feet of that. And it's also improved with the Santa Anita Wash. For that reason, staff is recommending the designation of that rear portion as public, quasi-public. That's a designation that allows to manage public facilities. The zone amendment would therefore complement the general plan amendment by designating the property residential medium 4,000. That in turn would allow for 1 unit to be built for every 4,000 square feet of lot area. The subject site would have approximately 17,316 square feet of that RM designation, which could yield up to 4 dwelling units. And then the rear portion would have the remainder of the site be PQP. Now, it's important to note that this application for the general plan and zoning amendment do not include a proposal for development. However, the CEQA document analyzed the project at a programmatic level, given that it would be allowing for additional development, actually up to 6 dwelling units if we were to consider all 3 of those lots, the 2 in Monrovia plus the 1 in Arcadia. But it's also important to note that any future development would require additional entitlement review by the city. And it could include anything from a tract map, subdivision map, to consolidate lots, subdivide lots. The homes on the lots are older than 50 years, so they would have to go through our discretionary demolition review process. There are also, I believe, some oak trees on site that would be protected by the city's oak tree preservation ordinance. So the zoning and general plan amendment request is not exempt under CEQA, and so the city was required to conduct an initial study. And that initial study evaluated all those topical areas shown on the slide, ranging from aesthetics to air quality impacts, cultural impacts, traffic, noise, recreational impacts. That initial study found that there were not any impacts related to this proposal. As a result, a negative declaration is proposed for the Planning Commission's consideration this evening. That negative declaration was circulated for a period of 20 days between October 11th and October 31st, during which time the city did receive 2 written pieces of public comment, which were included in the commission's packet. The first one was from the Department of Toxic Substance Control. That was a standard rules and regulations document that really spoke to requirements of any future proposed development on the site. Staff did also receive 1 letter from a property owner who lives several parcels south of the subject site in opposition of the project, mainly citing her concerns related to traffic and noise. I would like to point out that shortly before the meeting this evening, staff did also receive, which I believe is in front of you, a petition that was submitted, signed by residents in the area. Many of them are further south of the subject site. Was that, okay. Yeah. Okay, and there were a total of 16 residents who signed that. Three or four of those residents were actually within that 300-foot radius of the subject site. Several were further down, closer to El Camino Real. But they pointed out concerns related to traffic and noise. And in response to those concerns, those two areas were evaluated under the CEQA document. With related to traffic, it was noted that the increase of units on the site, a total of a net increase of 2, would have an incremental increase on traffic in the local traffic volumes. However, the impacts are not significant enough to necessitate changes to the roadway systems to accommodate any type of project in the future. It's also important to note that if a project is proposed, it would go through a thorough evaluation, would require the entitlement review and public works review. With respect to noise impacts, again, 2 additional residential units over the 4 that the zoning could accommodate. The noise for ongoing impacts would be related to air conditioning, heater type noises. If designated and the annexation is ultimately approved, the development would be subject to the city's noise ordinance. So I did want to just note that for the record as well. So tonight is the Planning Commission's review. Again, this is an advisory review, considering the initial study, negative declaration, and then the general plan amendment and zone change. Staff is recommending approval of this project, and that is through the adoption of a resolution PCR 2024-006. Should that move forward, the next step in the process would be the City Council public hearing, which is tentative to be scheduled around December 3rd. So with that, I'd like to conclude the presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Bermejo. Questions, Commissioner Rose?
Yeah, I have a few questions. Maybe I'm premature, I'm not sure. But Sherry, go back to the map of the property. I'm trying to get my head around. Is this going to cost the city any money to do this?
No, this application has been fully funded by the current property owner.
Okay, so there's no expense. What about once it's annexed, once we accept it, it becomes part of the city of Monrovia, do we take responsibility then for streets or?
The only thing that would change would be the designation of the parcel into the city. So part of this is evaluated under that tax transfer resolution. So we would get the property tax revenue
Right.
that the city of Arcadia got. Future development could increase property taxes to the city. The amount of the addition is really negligible impact on city services.
Oh, okay. That was my concern.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Austin?
I do. And you may have answered it, but with regarding to the letters we received late, and their concern was that coming into Monrovia could be a multi-unit, would that still be in effect in Arcadia if they wanted to adjust their zoning ordinances to allow multiple multi-units?
Of course.
It'd be under their jurisdiction.
Yeah, the
but-
city of Arcadia could, the council at any time to also decide or, through a general plan amendment and zone change, consider that. I'm not sure if that's even contemplated at this time,
Okay,
though.
But I just wanted to ask that question.
Yes.
Secondly, conversely, the property owner could have come to the city of Monrovia and flipped it around for those 2 little parcels that are north of the property as well,
That is correct.
and could have brought it into Arcadia, so.
That is correct.
Question from me, is there any reason to think that LAFCO would take issue with this, like further down the process?
No, generally, their final review is just making sure that all the i's were dotted and the t's were crossed, and there's been the sufficient environmental review and public comment review by the affected jurisdictions.
And are there any concerns from the city of Arcadia about this?
No,
They had no issues, no concerns noted?
no concerns noted.
And then beyond the public comment, the letter that received prior, and then the ones that we received today, have there been any other concerns raised by local residents anywhere throughout this process?
No, those are the only ones that we have documented.
And again, just to clarify, the public, quasi-public chunk of the property is there just to accommodate the wash, and that's consistent with all of the properties that are north of that, or all of the parcels that are north of that, right?
Yeah, that is correct.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Do we have an idea what their plans are for development and why they're asking to be combined?
We don't. We do not have an application that's been submitted to the city. Their development potential could include up to 6 units if the process is completed.
The adjacent lots are vacant right now?
Yes,
The ones in Monrovia, I mean.
correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify, this, the yellow outline here, that's not all 3 of the parcels, is it?
No, that's just the parcel in the city of Arcadia.
So the 2 thin ones that could potentially be included are immediately to the north, where it looks like there's a driveway?
They're very narrow parcels, yes, and
Yeah.
that's correct.
Maybe Director Bermejo, if you could just clarify, if they wanted to do some sort of development on this, you stated a few things that would have to happen, but maybe just summarize like what would have to happen to build 6 units on this in the future.
Absolutely. So, and it might be helpful to understand what could be done in the present day situation. The property owner could essentially apply to build a unit, one on each of those 2 lots that are currently in Monrovia. If this process is completed successfully and they have all 3 lots in the city of Monrovia to develop the site, they would likely need a subdivision map to either consolidate the lots or to subdivide the lots. Because there are existing residential units on the property that now would be coming into our jurisdiction that are older than 50 years, they would have to go through a historic assessment to determine any historical significance before the project could move forward. And it's important to note that a subdivision would come before the Planning Commission. And if there are any oak trees that are impacted, that would also require review.
Great. Thank you for stating that for the record, just so folks understand there are several steps in the future that would be required if any development was wanted to, if the applicant wanted to develop this site further. Okay. So if there's no further discussion or questions from the commission, this the time and place for public input on PH2. So we'll accept testimony in the following order: the applicant, then persons in favor, and then persons with concerns, and then the applicant will have a chance to respond. So just some reminders, folks wishing to speak, please come to the podium one at a time and just state your name. And all comments and questions should be directed to myself, the chair, not to other members of the commission or the audience. And no dialogue, and any questions by commissioners for the person testifying should be asked before the hearing is closed. So with that, we'll kick it off.
Hello, my name is James Troyer. I reside at 2213 Glendon Avenue, Los Angeles, California, 90064. I'm the applicant for the project. I represent Elizabeth and Jimmy Coe, who are the property owners and are here this evening as well. Ms. Coe brought this property to me to review. She purchased it a couple years ago, and I must say I found it interesting. It's got some complications and was just in need of some kind of just in a nice way, cleanup. Is kind of unusual to have the property split between jurisdictions. It only has one address, 923 10th. The Monrovia parcels are not addressed, so it was all part of 923 10th Street. We went to the city of Arcadia, we went to the city of Monrovia and talked to the planning staff for both cities. They indicated that both property, all three parcels had development potential. We worked with an architect, and when we laid out what the development potential would be, especially on the Arcadia side, since one of the lots is 12 feet wide, one of the lots is 20 feet wide, yes, it could be developed, but it would not be, really aesthetically pleasing, would be kind of challenging. So I thought that it would be best to approach either city to see if they would accept all three parcels in their jurisdiction. The development potential in Arcadia, since it is zoned R1 and that's been referenced, development potential, whether we annexed everything into Arcadia or just left it as it is currently, would be the same. We would basically be limited to 1,000 square foot accessory dwelling unit. The Monrovia, annexing into Monrovia offered some more opportunity. We can widen the lot to 78 feet, with the minimum lot width in Monrovia is 75, so we could create 78 feet of width. And we wanted to do something that exceeds the standard, meets or exceed the standards of the multiple family units that are north of the property. So doing the multiple unit in Arcadia would allow us to demolish, if it goes through historic review and everything, demolish the structures in Arcadia and do a beautiful 6-unit project in Monrovia. The only reason we're mentioning 6 units is because the density in the RM2 zone is 1 unit per 4,000 square feet. So the remainder would be 24,000 square feet. So by code, it would allow for 6 units. That doesn't mean we're going to get 6 units. As the director mentioned, there's going to be a complete development review. When we submit a development plan, there'll be a subdivision map act. There'll be oak tree review. There'll be historic review. There'll be the city's development standards, which includes fire lane, guest parking, garage parking. With all the development standards that Monrovia will impose on us, is no guarantee we're going to get 6 units. But we just want to do what meets the Arcadia code and do something that's really aesthetically pleasing for the city of Arcadia. Add some new units to the city's housing stock, which will meet its RENA numbers. And that's our plan. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Troyer. Any questions at this time? All right, thank you very much. I think we will move on to any other persons in favor wishing to speak. Seeing none, we'll move on to persons opposed. All right, and no persons opposed, so no need for a rebuttal. So we will go ahead and close the public testimony portion of the hearing for PH2. So now's the time for the commission to discuss and debate. Any comments or further questions from the commission? All right, pretty quiet. If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adopt Planning Commission Resolution Number PCR 2024-006.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a second. With that, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Commissioner Austin?
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Scheffler,
Yes.
Sheaf,
Yes.
Vashani,
Yes.
Chair Stahira.
Yes. And with that, the motion carries. All right, thank you very much. So this completes the public hearing portion of our meeting tonight. The next item on the agenda is administrative reports, but I believe we have none of those. So we will go ahead to the Community Development Director report, our inaugural report from Director Bermejo.
Yes, thank you. It's a
Go
pleasure
ahead.
to officially give my first report. And I think one of the first highlights that I know Craig really wanted to announce this, but I get to do it. We issued the demolition permit for the preparing of the making way for In-N-Out. So you might see some trailers in Huntington Oaks parking lot next week. I know our team has some pre-construction meetings that will be starting, so I thought that was very good news to share. We also have 2 other new businesses that pulled permits this week. One was Five Below. It's a retail shop, a little higher end than like the 99-cent store. That's my understanding. Five and Below, yeah, $5 and below. Nothing Bundt Cakes also came in and pulled permits, and they're also going into the Huntington Oaks Shopping Center.
Those are both in Huntington Oaks?
Yep,
All right, cool.
opposite the gym.
The
So the Crunch Fitness, you
Crunch.
have a cake, go work it off. Top it off with a cake, yeah. So the only other announcement that I'd like to make is this Thursday, we have a Monrovia Area Partnership EDU. In the evening, they're going to be focusing on the fire safety in the library room. That's going to run from, I believe, 5 to 6, or 6 to 8. We'll check, well, I recommend, if you're interested, checking our website. This is new to me. I forget times and numbers. But the other interesting community event that we have coming will take place next week, and that's our Thankful and Grateful event. That this year is going to be on Wednesday, November 20th, and it's going to take place from 5 o'clock to 8 p.m. So come out. It's a wonderful evening. And that's it for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Director Bermejo. Do we have any other questions from the commission for the director?
Since Cheryl didn't ask, how long does it take for the demolition, construction, and opening? Cheryl didn't ask, I'll ask. Not,
Well, we're going to have to wait till next month's report on that one.
oh,
Yeah,
Okay, let's come
we're going to
back.
be getting a project scope and timeline this coming week, so we'll have those details shortly.
All right, just one more comment from me, because we didn't have a meeting in October, which of course would have been Craig's last meeting. So it was unfortunate we didn't get to see him off in a meeting setting. But, I just wanted to say that I think we all had a great experience working with Craig, and it was great to have him leading the department. But I personally am very excited to have Sherry taking over. And it seems like everything is going swimmingly so far. So, all right. With that, do I have any other reports or announcements from members of the commission? Okay. With that, our next regular meeting is scheduled for December 11th, 2024. And this meeting is now adjourned at 8:10 p.m.